Hey guys, welcome back to more Reddit stories about Karens, crazy people, and all that kind of stuff. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see more Reddit content, and let's get into today's stories. Not doing your job? Well, now you're not getting paid. Poker dealers at casinos make most of their money in tips. After a hand is played, it's customary for the winner to throw $1 or $2 to the dealer, in the same manner as a server. After a particularly big hand, it's not uncommon for a $5 or even a $25 chip to wind up in their hands. So it's in the best interest of the dealer to do their best work, again in the same manner as a server, lest they not make their wage. To ensure a dealer is focused and that there's no cheating going on between specific players and dealers, a dealer is generally only sat at a table for about 30 minutes and then is cycled out with someone else. The first hand a new dealer dealt at my table was the start of the best 30 minutes of poker of my life, specifically because this dealer was a jerk. Without getting into hold'em minutiae, I won the hand and showed my cards, then threw them into the pile. During the throw, the cards flipped over so you could only see the back. It was established that I won the hand, and really I had no obligation to show as no one called my bet. During my mucking of the cats, the dealer had entered a conversation with a passerby and turned away from the table, which is strictly forbidden. He didn't see who won the hand, and thus declared it a chop, draw, and gave the remaining players an equal amount back. The other players didn't protest this as they earned about $30 from it. It was about a $90 loss for me. I obviously petitioned the dealer, but he gave me a too bad so sad spiel and moved on. I got irate, called over the floor manager, and while he agreed the dealer should have been paying attention, I shouldn't have mucked before the dealer could confirm. We're outside the real rules here. People folded, I was last in and won the pot. They refused to overturn and suggested that I'd be welcome to leave if I was unsatisfied. But I would demand satisfaction even if I needed to manufacture it. I played like an idiot. I would make absurd raises, be belligerent, within the confines of the house allowances, and straight up disallow any functional level of poker from being played. All in every other hand. And the best part is that I was constantly getting great cards, so that even if I was called for hundreds of dollars, I would likely have taken it down. The play was so erratic that you couldn't possibly enter a hand without facing an impossible choice. A lot of the time, I was pulling these stunts very early in the hand, forcing people to fold without them ever getting past the blinds. Forced small bets to keep the game moving, meaning the house wasn't even taking their per-hand profits. And at the end of every hand I stared at the dealer, looked him right in the eyes as I pulled the pot towards me. And of course, never once did I send a chip in his direction. Of the 40 or so hands played in that half hour, I won over 35 of them. My roommate won a few as well. I was betting hundreds of dollars every other hand, specifically to stop this dealer from earning just one. I was impossibly petty. The dealer effectively worked for a half hour for half wages. Dealers are only paid when they are sat and dealing at this casino, and after this debacle he was called out of the poker room. I made 3 people leave the table, and once the dealer was gone we left the casino as well. All I wanted was a "I screwed that up, I'm sorry," just a quick apology. We're all human, we make mistakes. But he had to be smug about it, so I channeled my inner cowboy and ran the table like I had a weapon out in the open. I took money from the dealer, I took money from the house, and I took money from the players who didn't support my petition for my clearly won hand. And then I never went back to that crappy garbage casino. Group and restaurant prayed for my misfortune to benefit someone else. So I, 21 female, work at a small restaurant filled with locals and church groups who frequent the restaurant quite often. For context, I'm in a relationship with someone I met at the restaurant, and most of the people here know that. This afternoon I had a church group of 8 come in. I know them all by name. 2 in particular are Josh and his son, Adam, who wasn't in attendance today. Everything is going fine. Normal conversation is flowing, and at the end they ask me to join hands with them in prayer. I don't practice any religion, but for my customers I bow my head in respect, let them say their prayer, and finish off with an amen. That didn't happen today. Josh started the prayer, and as we near the end I feel him squeeze my hand a little and say, "And Jesus, we ask you to free this beautiful young lady from her ties to another man, for my boy Adam. I know in my heart and with you that they are meant to be together, but don't want it to happen in sin. Again, I ask you to please free this woman from her. I stopped listening at this point, pulled my hand away, and left the table. I had Adam's number from a mutual friend of ours and called him to ask what the hell his group was on about. He was very apologetic and told me that he had a crush on me way back when I first started to work at the restaurant, almost 2 years ago at this point. That is long gone, as he knew we had different beliefs, along with wanting to still come to the restaurant without any awkward tension. Apparently his dad took this little crush and effing ran with it. He told me that his group prays about this at church all the time, and that he doesn't attend as much because of it, along with the fact that their preacher even mentioned it a couple times during group prayer. I guess he called his dad while the group was still at the restaurant because he came up to me and berated me for interrupting his prayer and for calling Adam to, quote, tell on him. I told him his prayer made me very uncomfortable as I'm secure in my relationship and will never step out in favor of Adam. I said I don't know what you think praying about it will do, but no form of any God would ask me to leave my partner in your favor, to make you and only you happy. You and anyone else actively participating in your f***ed up fantasy can leave. So they did. Our owner knows these people well and also attends the same church, so obviously she heard about it. She told me that she knows I have different beliefs, but not to talk to people that way in the restaurant, as it's a bad look on her as well. I apologize for the hurtful words I used, but I will not let anyone think that praying for me to leave my partner will work, nor will I stand being directly disrespected in a group of people like that. Edit/update for info. My boss wasn't ignoring what happened, she was more upset that I cursed at people in the restaurant and caused a scene. She was fully on my side when she found out what happened. As for it being mentioned at church, I called the church to speak to someone about it and got their pastor or priest. I'm not sure the difference, honestly. He said it was mentioned during group prayer, but not in the setting I was thinking. He said when they did pray about it, they prayed for Adam to find someone special, that I was never mentioned by name, which I suspect is a lie. He apologized for the group, said they were so far over the line that he'll be having a conversation with them about what is and isn't appropriate for prayer, because what they were, quote, praying for wasn't prayer, that it was a form of coercion and it was unacceptable. I also spoke to Adam again today and he apologized again for what happened, said he was utterly embarrassed and humiliated. He said he understands not wanting him or his family at the restaurant anymore, but I don't call those shots. He said he'll get Josh to apologize, but we'll see how long that takes. I said I'll accept his apology if it's genuine. I'll gladly apologize for the hurtful words I used, but I will not apologize for standing up for myself or my relationship. Honestly, the fact that this guy didn't even see a problem with saying something like this in the first place is just sort of hilarious, especially in front of OP. I mean, saying that with OP not around is already pretty weird, but doing it with OP there and giving her hand a squeeze as a sort of nod saying like, yeah, this is about you, is just completely tactless, and it's honestly surprising that he didn't see a problem with it. Like, how did he expect OP to react? To just think, yeah, you know what, you're so right. Let's assume this guy is married. What if during one of their prayers someone wishes for him and his wife to separate, because someone they know has a thing for his wife and wants to get with her? It really wouldn't be all that much different from what he said. Having my neighbor's car towed after she boxed in my fiance's car in our driveway. My fiance, 30 female, and I, 29 male, barely moved into this house a few months ago. The first week we noticed a car parked right on our driveway, which obviously didn't belong. When we went outside, the lady who lived next door asked if this was okay. Her house is right at the corner of the street and there's no driveway. She said the last owner was fine with letting her park there, so she hoped we wouldn't mind. Our driveway is big enough for 2 cars, so we said for now it was okay. After our son was born and I had to go back to work, we decided to buy a second car so it's easier for her to get around. All 3 cars don't fit, so we had to tell our neighbor she can't park there anymore. Ever since, it's become a whole issue. Once she was parked behind me when I was leaving early in the morning, so I had to go banging on her door at 6 a.m. She had the audacity to be mad for waking her up. I reminded her she can't park there again, so we thought she got the message. Second time was when we were on our way home from the park. She was already parked there, so we would have had to park behind her. I went to go knock and she said she was just putting her groceries away since we weren't home and the driveway is closer. This last time when it happened, my car wasn't working, so my brother came to pick me up early. My fiance had to take our son to his 4-month appointment, but the lady's damn car was parked right behind her, so there was no way for her to pull out of the driveway. She told me the neighbor wasn't answering the door. It got late, so she had to reschedule his appointment. I came home after and called the cops to come deal with this, because I was just so tired. Since they couldn't reach her, they did end up towing her car. Once she found out, she was at my door angry. So she was a few blocks down at a friend's house, which is why she didn't answer. But now she says she's stressed because she doesn't have the money to get her car back and it's our fault. Since both our cars were there, she assumed we were home, and if anything, we would have used my car to pull out of the driveway. My neighbor kept complaining how messed up we are going to that extreme, making her lose her car when she absolutely needs it. We have just ignored her since then, but now every time we're stepping out, she glares right at us. I've had my car towed before too, so we know it's a nightmare of a fee to get it out of impound. That's why I'm asking if I'm the asshole. It's been almost a week since this happened, with still no sign of her car parked on the street, so obviously she hasn't got it back yet. I mean, she was given a chance to stop, but she just kept on doing it. How many times does someone have to deal with that? How many appointments do you have to miss before it's okay to actually get it towed? Not only that, but she made it increasingly difficult to even get in contact with her to move it. So it's pretty clear she wasn't even thinking about how she might be inconveniencing others, and not even making any effort at all to be available to move it when people need her to. So that's all her own doing. But you know how it is with these types of people, she'll probably never take responsibility for that. The double-sided policy disaster. I work in a small office, and like a lot of companies, we've got that one manager who's obsessed with cutting costs. Ours is Mark. Mark wasn't a bad guy, but he had this laser focus on reducing expenses, no matter how small. One of his biggest obsessions was paper. He was convinced that we were blowing our budget on printing, so he implemented a new policy. Everything had to be double-sided. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a hard rule. Mark sent an email to everyone in the office, CCing HR to make it official. From this point forward, all printing must be double-sided, no exceptions. If we catch unnecessary single-sided printing, there will be consequences. Most of us didn't see it as a big deal for internal documents, but there were times it was a problem. We regularly worked with contracts, legal forms, and client documents, things that, for whatever reason, often had to be single-sided. A few of us raised concerns about this with Mark, but his response was always the same. Rules are rules, double-sided saves us money, stick to the policy. A couple of weeks later, we got a massive contract from one of our biggest clients. Let's call them Green Tech. The deal was huge, easily one of the biggest projects we'd handled all year, and it came with a lot of paperwork. The instructions from Green Tech were crystal clear. The contract had to be printed single-sided to meet their legal department standards. I figured this might be one of those rare cases where Mark would make an exception. So I went to him, explained the situation, and showed him the client's instructions. Mark just shrugged and said, "Company policy is company policy. We're not wasting paper. Double-sided." At this point, I knew where this was headed, but fine. I followed the rules. I printed the entire 80-page contract double-sided and sent it off to the client. A couple of days later, we get an email from Green Tech. They weren't pleased. In fact, they were asking us to reprint the whole thing, single-sided this time, or they'd reconsider doing business with us. When I showed the email to Mark, his face turned red. He had no choice but to backtrack and scramble to fix the mess. We ended up having to reprint the entire contract correctly and rush ship it to Green Tech overnight, which ended up costing us more in fees than the printing savings Mark had been so focused on. The best part? After that fiasco, Mark quietly rolled back the no exceptions rule for double-sided printing, and we were all allowed to use our judgment on a case-by-case basis. Funny how a little compliance with bad policies can show why they don't work in practice. Anyway, friends, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching, I really appreciate it. And as always, if you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. So take care, and I'll see you next time.